The first scripture reading for today is from Isaiah, chapter 40, verses 21 through 31. Do you not know? Have you not heard? Has it not been told you from the beginning? Have you not understood since the earth was founded? He sits enthroned above the circle of the earth, and its people are like grasshoppers. He stretches out the heavens like a canopy and spreads them out like a tent to live in. He brings princes to naught and reduces the rulers of this world to nothing. No sooner are they planted, no sooner are they sown, no sooner do they take root in the ground, than he blows on them, and they wither, and a whirlwind sweeps them away like chaff. To whom will you compare me? Or who is my equal, says the Holy One. Lift up your eyes and look to the heavens. Who created these? He who brings out the starry host one by one and calls forth each of them by name. Because of his great power and mighty strength, not one of them is missing. Why do you complain, Jacob? Why do you say, Israel, my way is hidden from the Lord, my cause is disregarded by my God? Do you not know? Have you not heard? The Lord is the everlasting God, the creator of the ends of the earth. He will not grow tired or weary, and his understanding no one can fathom. He gives strength to the weary and increases the power of the weak. Even youths grow tired and weary, and young men stumble and fall. But those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not be faint. The second reading today is from 1 Corinthians chapter 9, verses 16 through 23. For when I preach the gospel, I cannot boast, since I am compelled to preach. Woe to me if I do not preach the gospel. If I preach voluntarily, I have a reward. If not voluntarily, I am simply discharging the trust committed to me. What then is my reward? Just this, that in preaching the gospel I may offer it free of charge, and so not make full use of my rights as a preacher of the gospel. Though I am free and belong to no one, I have made myself a slave to everyone to win as many as possible. To the Jews I become like a Jew to win the Jews. To those under the law I become like one under the law, though I myself am not under the law, so as to win those under the law. To those not having the law I become like one not having the law, though I am not free from God's law, but am under Christ's law, so as to win those not having the law. To the weak I become weak to win the weak. I have become all things to all people, so that by all possible meanings I might save some. I do this for the sake of the gospel, that I may share in its blessings. And the final reading today is from Mark, chapter 1, verses 29 through 39. As soon as they left the synagogue, they went with James and John to the home of Simon and Andrew. Simon's mother-in-law was in bed with a fever, and they immediately told Jesus about her. So he went to her, took her hand, and helped her up. The fever left her, and she began to wait on them. That evening after sunset, the people brought to Jesus all the sick and demon-possessed. The whole town gathered at the door, and Jesus healed many who had various diseases. He also drove out many demons, but he would not let the demons speak, because they knew who he was. Very early in the morning, when it was still dark, Jesus got up, left the house, and went off to a solitary place where he prayed. Simon and his companions went to look for him. And when they found him, they said, "Everyone is looking for you." Jesus replied, "Let us go somewhere else, to the nearby villages, so I can preach there also. That is why I have come." So he traveled throughout Galilee, preaching in their synagogues and driving out demons. This is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. I'm really not a fan of Paul. I find him arrogant and self-serving. It feels sometimes that he's reshaping himself to be the message rather than the messenger. Yet, there's always something there when an epistle comes up in the lectionary, and it sometimes makes me uncomfortable. It's like I'm being called out, that maybe I'm more like Paul than I'm willing to admit. I want to follow the perfect model of Jesus, and I often end up being the overly zealous everyman. It's not that I go into it with bad intent, but I find that Paul makes me rethink my motivation. I really had to hit a hard stop with the line, "What then is my reward?" Just this, that in preaching the gospel I may offer it free of charge, and so not make full use of my rights as a preacher of the gospel. I don't ask to be paid to stand up here. It is an honor to serve. On the rare occasions I do accept a check, I endorse it back to the church. Is it a Christian thing to do? Yes, but it also gives me the independence to act within the dictates of my own conscience. That can be a dangerous thing, because independence leads to arrogance. Am I really the one with the answers? I warn my students about that when they're excited about championing a cause. I want to help homeless people, they say. I'm going to start a blanket drive. I'm going to give them granola bars. I'm going to direct them to shelters. The blanket drive by the hockey team led to one of the most tone-deaf slogans ever. Fleece the homeless. Those granola bars, nutrition dense, don't need refrigeration, easy to carry, and impossible to eat. If you live on the street, what access do you have to dental care for your rotted teeth? Something hard and crunchy is excruciating. A shelter? They're often crowded and unsafe, and a nightmare for someone with social anxiety. And how many times have you heard someone say, "They won't let me bring my dog, and I won't abandon my dog"? All of these ideas come with good intentions, but they're all missing the same thing: collaboration. Listening to and working with the people they want to help. Moving from the mindset that people are homeless, a permanent state, to experiencing homelessness, a temporary state. People are nouns, not adjectives. I challenge them to explore their own value systems. Why are you giving granola bars instead of money? It comes down to a lack of trust in others' abilities to make good decisions. If you could make good financial decisions, you wouldn't be living on the street. If I give you money, you might spend it on something I don't approve of. So I'm going to model responsibility and make the decision for you. Paul gives some insight here. To the Jews, I became like a Jew to win the Jews. I'm not suggesting that students go live on the street for a night. That's performative and offensive, co-opting someone else's lived experience into an adventure before heading back to the comfort and safety of their home. It is, however, about going in with openness and a willingness to be challenged. They bring their own expertise and resources that contribute to the solution, but don't necessarily define it. And it is good marketing. I remind students that not everyone shares their heart space on an issue. Emotional arguments fall flat to someone that doesn't have the same personal connection. Engage people where they are. Appeal to their values and understandings. Shape your message to your audience. Capture their head and you'll capture their heart. Paul continues with, I have become all things to all people, so that by all possible means I might save some. I sense a little of that arrogant independence again. I have things under control. Yeah, only because it's God's will. I read into these words an embedded message from a power higher than Paul. There is an admonition to be genuine. Don't get so lost in delivering the message that you forget what the message is. There is a risk in being all things to all people. It makes us want to fix things quickly and then move on to the next challenge. We want to offer advice and solve problems when sometimes advice is neither helpful nor welcome. We can abandon people when they enter the long haul part of their journey. We've done the things that make us feel good, and then we go back to our regular routines. One of my colleagues put it well when I was talking to him after his mother died. He said, the definition of a funeral is someone dies and then you throw away food. When something big happens, there's a flurry of phone calls. Everyone wants to help. Everyone wants to be there. Tuna casseroles? Here's a dozen. Not only are you dealing with a crisis, you're dealing with everyone who wants in on the action. You tell the same story 100 times because everyone wants to hear it from you and show their support. I really feel for Simon's mother-in-law, in bed with a fever, and then the moment she's cured, she's up and waiting on everyone. I know that any mom who's ever cooked dinner when she's sick can relate. We forget sometimes that our concern for others is often about trying to make things normal for ourselves. We call on them to reassure us, to give us solace, and to help us process what's going on. Not intentionally, maybe, but we want good news. We want to know everything is all right so we can move on. It's exhausting to be a caregiver. Very early in the morning, while it was still dark, Jesus got up, left the house, and went off to a solitary place where he prayed. Even Jesus needed to get away. He needed to pray, to be alone, to process the day's events. He needed the phone to stop ringing, focus on himself, just for a little while, before Simon and company showed up and another chaotic day began. Then Jesus moved on. The town settled down and things got back to normal. Sure, people talked about those who had been sick and remember the few days when everything was turned upside down. Many remembered the man who made it happen, but they went back to their daily routines. For Jesus, of course, the next day might have been in a different town, but it was still a crush of new problems and new things to deal with. Jesus was in it for the long haul. Isaiah speaks to this. Why do you say, Israel, my way is hidden from the Lord, my cause is disregarded by my God? Caregivers are chased by different ghosts than those they care for. It's often lonely. They're pushed aside and overlooked in the rush to see the star of the show. It's like thrusting a sword into a cloud. Exhausting, but no clear path to resolution. The long haul begins when the adrenaline wears off. The flurry of events settles down and the drone of a new normal kicks in. You are no longer the cause célèbre. People like things that are over and done with, and you're not over and done with. Jesus is the ultimate caregiver. It never ends for him. In retrospect, we recognize the work that he did, but only because it's part of the bigger narrative. In the moment, however, I find it hard to believe that people weren't more focused on those he healed than the healer himself. I encourage my students to stick with the story for the long haul. That's why their projects are a year long. It's the day-to-day minutiae that get forgotten. Yet it's the day-to-day minutiae that create the patina of the story. Maybe that's part of the beef that I have with Paul. He was never there for the mundane. He never smelled the fish cooking over a campfire with Jesus at the end of the day. He never sensed the exhaustion after an endless stream of people seeking miracles. That's the reality. Would Paul have grown tired of Jesus' humanity and moved on to the next big thing? History gives us a highlight reel as we turn the ephemera of moments into a monument for generations. The true gift isn't the monument, but the moment. Those who stay for the long haul are the ones who are truly blessed. The words of Isaiah reassure us. The Lord is the everlasting God, the creator of the ends of the earth. He will not grow tired or weary, and his understanding no one can fathom. He gives strength to the weary and increases the power of the weak. Even youths grow tired and weary, and young men stumble and fall. But those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not be faint. Amen.